Good morning. I am Steve Weber. Welcome to the American Gumption Morning Show, broadcasting on Spirituality Gone Wild and primarily on the Facebook American Gumption page and YouTube channels. So welcome to Wednesday, May 5th, show number 168. And we have a return guest today, Tamra Fleming. She joined us, I'm thinking it was November. I didn't look up the exact date. But anyway, she's coming back. And Tamra is the meaningofspace.com. And we'll get more into her story. And she's been a friend and a mentor and a coach. And I'm just excited that she'll be joining us here in about 15 minutes at 15 past the hour. So I have a little monologue that I'm going to do beforehand. And the name of the monologue today is Life Timeline Jumps. Life Timeline Jumps. And I've got a little slideshow, and I'll talk about that. And that was inspired by Tamra appearance today. So that'll be fun. I'm going to tell you all about that in about 2 minutes from now. But first, let me go ahead and tell you what's happening the rest of this week. And I'll even tease you a little bit about next week. So tomorrow is Thursday. Gwen Peterson, she is the founder of the Spiritual Communities Network. And so Gwen is going to join us, and I'm thinking it's a lot like the Spirituality Gone Wild community, but it's the Spiritual Communities Network. And so we'll learn about Gwen and about the organization that she's created and the different spiritual entrepreneurs that she's brought together and the people that are learning from those, those different spiritual entrepreneurs. So we'll learn all about that tomorrow. On Friday, Victoria Reynolds returns to the American Gumption show. And we're going to talk about her Declaration of Independence. It's a personal Declaration of Independence that she's written about where she feels like she needs to be and position herself in the world for what is happening right now in our world. So she's declaring herself free, and she's living her life free, fearless and free. Alrighty, so that's on Friday. And then I think I have 3 guests confirmed. I've got 2 guests confirmed next week. I think I have a 3rd guest. It looks like it's good, but we'll tell you about the 2. Wednesday, Kathy Mason, and she has a broadcast called The Conscious Business Zone, and Mason works marketing, and so she will be joining us. And then on Friday, Diana Dameron, who is a return guest, and she wrote the book on civility, and she's also a certified DISC trainer / analysis. And in the work that she does with organization civility, they go through the DISC profile. So I've taken the DISC profile, and she will share what it is, what my profile is. I've done the DISC profile before, but it's been a few years. So it'll be interesting to see if I've shifted a little bit in the last few years. So a DISC profile, that's like a week from Friday. That's a week from, this Friday. So that's what's coming up next week. Alrighty, now let's go ahead and jump into today's monologue. And we're going to talk about the life timeline jumps. And so I'm going to do a screen share, and I'm going to probably put myself in the big spot. Let's see see, there we go. I think that should do it. Not there we go. So this is the slideshow that I'm sharing here, but let's go ahead and change the view so that I'm in the big spot. You can still see that, the life timeline jumps. I think that's going to work good. All right, and I'll take off this title of the monologue title, Life Timeline Jumps. All righty, now what is a life timeline jump? So what I did is I just drew this. It's got a simple couple graphs here. I drew this simple timeline that extends out from the left side over to the right side. And imagine that being your timeline. And then each of these little vertical, bars on it represent, milestones. And so imagine you're somewhere along on the, and it doesn't matter where you're at on there. Some of the things, depending on where you put yourself, you could have some of those milestones that be in the past, and some of them are going to be in the future. And so we as humans are always looking to see what we can do in terms of, move forward. We are creators. We always want more things. We want to keep growing and evolving and expanding our lives. And so we have these ideas or these visions, these things in the future that we want to achieve. And so, the question really becomes, how do you move along that? How quickly can you move along that? So this is the idea of it. So in simplest forms, you just go from, A to B, you make some steady progress. And, once you move forward, you move forward again. And, you just keep, doing that whole, progression and that progress. So that's kind of, like I said, in the simplest form. And that's the way, from an, when we're not, when we're not really intentionally trying to design and keep our life moving forward in some kind of a way, that's kind of like just sort of the default way of being. That's the natural progression. We don't have to work too hard at, moving that way. It just sort of happens on a natural basis. And we just, continue to evolve. We have some place we want to be, and we take these little steps and we keep moving forward. Alrighty. Now, and this is really just showing that steady progress from going from A to B, and then from B to C, and from C to D. And I remember in an earlier time in my life, I thought about this in this exact way. And in fact, the way I thought about it was, as I looked at my life in the rearview mirror, I could see how I went from A to B, from job A to B, and then I could see how I went from job B to C, and I could see how I went from job C to D. And I remember realizing that it would have been very difficult for me to go from A to C or from B to D, because, like I had to get to the next place in order to see where the next place. But what was ironic or funny about that, the observation I made, is that, these things, it would have almost been impossible to go from, like I said, that like from A to D instantaneously. And there was really no correlation between A and D, but there was certainly a correlation between A and B and C and C to D. So that was kind of that aha moment or realization that I had in my own life that way. So now let's see here. So now the next step is like a quantum jump. And here I'm showing going from A to E. So that's like a big step. That's like huge. That's how do you do that sort of thing? And the reason why I wanted to share this morning is because of our guest, Tamra, who is going to, who's going to be joining us. And I ended up making this kind of a quantum jump in my life. And she really was very helpful in guiding me and giving me some tools and awareness on how to make this kind of a big jump. And so what I realized from that, and really that big jump that I'm talking about, was when I decided, okay, I'm going to leave Montana. I'm going to get rid of like a lot of stuff that I had in my life, and I'm going to go out and live and work on the road for the next several years. I'm going to start the American Gumption Project. This was like a big quantum jump from where I had been. And so what I learned through that process is that in order to make that big jump, you need to be willing to let go of certain things, and you need to be willing to shed. I'm going to use that word shed, obligations and commitments that you've had, and get rid of them and just move forward. So that's really kind of what I think we're going to talk about today. Now, lastly, I'm just going to do this summary timeline. And again, the top line just shows that, we all have these places that we want to go in our lives, and we move from, the top line is really just the milestones. It represents the timeline on the horizontal, and the vertical lines are each of the things that we want to achieve in life. And then the second line just shows a steady progression where you go from A to B and from B to C and C to D. And then the third line is showing, well, sometimes we can make like a bigger jump, and we don't have to do anything too radical to do that. But we can it is possible. And I've done those things. But what the last line shows, if you really want to make quantum jumps and you really want to move forward with it, then you have to do it like with some intentionality, and you have to be willing to get rid of some things, whether they be commitments or things that you've been holding on to, or physical stuff, or your whole workspace, that whole thing. So that's really the that's my timeline jumps monologue for today. And hopefully it was kind of fun for me to throw that together, and hopefully we'll be able to talk a little bit about that. All righty, so that is it. It's a few minutes early. Hopefully I see her back there. It looks like she's ready to go. I think we could bring her on a couple minutes early if she's ready. Are you ready back there, Tamara? You want to come join us? All righty. She says yes. Let's bring her forward. All righty. Tamra Fleming, welcome back to the American Gumption Morning Show. How are you doing?
Oh, very good. Yeah, it's a great, beautiful day in Montana. You're missing out.
I am missing Montana. Tell me about Montana. What's happening in Montana these days?
Oh, wow. Well, not much. I mean, we've had a lot of people move into town from out of town, probably from California and different places on the West Coast. But yeah, everything here, no snow. It's like sunny and spring weather. So we're all good. It's feeling good. Restaurants are opening. Things are opening back up.
Great. Spring is a wonderful time because it represents the rebirth of the life, and people have hibernated a little bit and rested for the winter, and cocooned. And of course, we've had a whole year of cocooning, so maybe this spring is better than last spring for that reason alone.
Absolutely. Get outside. Get out with your friends. Go for walks.
All righty. Well, very good. Well, you were here, back in November, I believe it was. And, we really talked about the virtual background at that particular time. And my virtual background is still, it's the real background, but it's the background for my virtual show, like, right. Well, as I'm on a Zoom call, and you helped me put that together. And that's what we talked about in the last show. So thank you for doing that. I haven't done anything dramatic to it since you've last helped me realign it.
You haven't what? What was that? Uh-oh.
I haven't done anything new to it since the last time. It's sort of what we did back in November. So anyway. All righty. Well, let's go this. We're a little bit hesitant on the
it's cutting out a little bit.
Yeah, let's see. Let me get rid of. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. We already did that. We'll stop that screen share. All right, maybe this will help us. Oh my gosh, I see things jumping up, settings coming and going. So hopefully we're.
Yeah. Are you good?
We have a little bit of a technical glitch, but I hope we're okay now.
I think I was just trying to close down anything I have also. Sometimes
That's
close down Facebook. I'll close down. I'll just close down everything.
There you go.
Very good.
All righty. Well, here's what I'll do. I'm going to, just because it's been a few months since you've been here, I'd like to refresh people on who you are, and I'll read your bio because actually I went and reread it this morning, what I had written a couple months ago, and it's so good. It's worth rereading and reintroducing who you are. So Tamra Fleming is the creator of a transformational personal growth process that comes from aligning people's physical living spaces to the vision they have for their life. For more than 20 years, Tamra has been fascinated by the relationship between life and space. She has developed her own philosophy called the meaning of space. Oh, and that reminds me, I'm going to go ahead and change the scrolling banner down to say Tamra Fleming, meaningofspace.com. All righty. So her prior study and training in multiple disciplines have led her to the meaning of space. These past disciplines include energy coaching, feng shui, the Chinese 5-element theory, space clearing, and color theory. And from her own personal experience as she explored living environments across the globe. You went and traveled the world for a year solo with just a backpack.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that because it was one of my leaps in life.
Excellent. Tamra works with go-getters in transformation and helps them get clear on their purpose, their meaning, and the impact they want to make on the world. Over the course of her career, Tamara has done life coaching, leadership development, executive coaching, public speaking, and she is the author of the book Upswing, 80 Mindful Practices to Shift Your Life from Blues to Bliss. And one of those chapters is on Gumption, I believe.
Yeah, it is actually. And you were a big part of naming the title. So, we have
right.
back.
we have a little bit of history here together.
Yeah.
All right, we already covered this, but I'll say it anyway. Tamara lives in the beautiful Bitterroot Valley in western Montana, and since 2014, I've had the privilege of calling her friend, coach, mentor, and mentee. So Tamara Fleming, welcome back to the American Gumption Morning Show. Thanks for coming back and joining us. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Thanks for having me back. This is so fun. I love watching your show. It's a great show. You have a lot of really fun people on here.
So you say, change your life space, change your life, change your life space, change your life. Go ahead and tell us about that.
Oh gosh. Well, this is one of those things. I love our topic today because this is sometimes when you do life leaps and life timeline jumps, you also pull a dream along behind you. And so one of the things that happened to me in my early days, really as a child, is I became really fascinated with space. And with space, it was my relationship with how I felt about everything around me, how I kept order around me, and how that kind of transformed was I didn't really become an interior designer, though I probably should have. Because I was always recreating my space. I mean, back in college, I actually took all of the bolted down furniture in the dorm out and had custom furniture built and brought in. I was in the college newspaper for the most creative room. And then I moved on to go to the Fashion Institute in San Francisco. And I didn't go into interior design. I went into retail merchandising. So it's always been about space. And that relationship that we have with our spaces and how that shapes and impacts who we are. So the bottom line is your environment actually shapes who you are. It shapes your physiology, your beliefs. It shapes how you think. It shapes where you live, where you don't like to live. So I like to look at place and I like to look at space. And then I like to look at the self and how are those three things married and linked together. It's a very fascinating relationship, and it's very, very real.
Yeah, I've experienced a bit of that realness myself. So that's wonderful. I'm in agreement completely that the space affects our living, but how does it affect it? And maybe a better question to ask is, how do the things we surround ourselves with project what is occurring in our present and then future? So what is it about that stuff that, so affects us and influences us and either keeps us stuck or propels us to move forward?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to try to give you the fast forward version of this. So basically, everything around you is a mirror of what's gone on inside you in your past. And so when it's in your past, you've made decisions and choices about the things that you hold around you, like this bench back here, or this lamp, or the books, or whoops, I'm on the other side. The lamps or the books or the peacock feathers, by the way. There's probably some Steve peacock feathers in that arrangement over there. Everything around you tells a story of who you are. Now, some people who are clutterers probably take a big, deep gasp and go, oh my God. And it's okay, because in the work, we try to eliminate judgment. And I'll talk about that maybe later. But the idea here is that everything around you paints a picture and a story of who you are. And because we're human, we're always evolving. Hopefully we're evolving. And if we're evolving, then our interiors, our homes need to evolve with us. So when we hang on to things that are in our past that elicit an emotion, and sometimes we may not even know that they're lurking in the space, they're hiding out in the space, and all of a sudden we start cleaning or clutter clearing, and we go, whoa, and it brings up all of these emotions and memories and things. And then we have to decide what we're going to do with it. Well, this outer is the architecture of the self. And so, because I've been always in my life a person who has wanted to change, I love change, actually, I really like it. So when I change, I would change my environment to change myself or change my life. I've moved more than, and I have to go back and actually try to do a real physical count. I've moved more than 45 times in my life.
Wow.
And sometimes I would move 3 times in a year because I would get to a new place and I wouldn't like it, so I would decide to move again. And so you would say, well, then probably you were a minimalist and you didn't have to drag around all that stuff. Well, no, that's not true, because I had all my stuff too that I drug around. And so, it becomes really very interesting when you start to actually learn how to read your space and interpret it so that you can make choices to change your life. And I say, and this is so not a health recommendation, but you can do this in lieu of or in addition to therapy, and it will move mountains in your life. Because when you start to look at your things through the lens that I look through, and you start to tell yourself the real story, you're able to make different decisions about your things and remove things, or change things, or give things away, or repurpose things in your space that realign to what that meaning is for you in your life. And it's extremely powerful, and it changes your health, your physiology, your spirit, your mental states. It's massive. And this is the psychology of space. Now you wonder, did I invent this? No, absolutely I did not. It came out of the architectural world. Back in the 60s, they started to talk about environmental psychology. And environmental psychology is really all about this relationship we have. But no one out there really has grabbed a hold of this and taken it into the public. It's because we live in the United States, and you could probably say in the UK as well, but in the Western world where we have access to stuff, we tend to collect stuff. Now, I have a style quiz on my website that you can go and you can learn what style you are with your space, and that may help you understand how you're in or out of a balance with who you are in your space, and we can talk about that later too. But the idea here is that the one thing that I don't do feng shui anymore, because what I ended up doing is bringing it all into this personal psychology. And the personal psychology is really all about, there are the 5 elements: fire, water, wood, metal, and earth. And inside of each of us are these elements. And if they're out of balance, we feel out of whack. And so the idea is, because we're always ebbing and flowing in life, is to try to learn what the core essence of who we are is, and then to begin to create our spaces around us very consciously with how that soothes our system and feeds our vision in this time in our life. And the vision part is really critical, because I talk about turning your home into a living vision map. And what that means is literally, so if you could see over here on my wall, I have a jacket hanging on my wall and a hat that says visionary. I'm a big visionary. But the jacket has a manifestation story that is really empowered. In my early days, when I was starting to do this work in the early 2000s, Courtney Cox was doing a show called Mix It Up. And it was about couples moving in together. And so I made this intention that I would meet her and maybe we could collaborate on a project. And so, long story short, I ended up in Park City, Utah for the Sundance Film Festival, not because I was going to that, but because I was at another event in another little town nearby. Anyway, long story short, I bought this jacket, and when I walked out of the store on the street 4 months after I had made that intention, my chin kind of lifted up, and there was Courtney Cox in front of me, and she and I engaged words and had a conversation about space and her show that she was working on, Couples Moving In Together. And it reminds me, so it's a living vision map of a powerful manifestation that I created in a very short period of time. So it's like, not everyone would hang a jacket on their wall, but I do, because that's what holds the power of every time I look over to my left, I go, remember, you created that, so you can create pretty much anything.
Wow. Yeah. I love the fact that instant magnification. We put an intention out there, and it can suddenly, become real. And I think what you're talking about is that you take your space, your environment, and you use that to help you propel forward, and to do that. And I'd like to just kind of use myself as a little bit of an example, in the sense that I was probably unconscious about my space until I met you. I mean, you were conscious about it. Like, I like this, I did this, certain things kind of appealed to me, certain things didn't, but I didn't have necessarily any kind of real understanding why. And I've been a single guy, so I didn't really have an influence of someone else who cared a whole lot about maybe the space. So I didn't care a whole lot about my space. And I ended up moving to California at a young age, 27 years later, going to Montana. When I went to Montana, I drug a lot of stuff with me from California to Montana, and I kind of just all dumped it. And I lived in this environment and this space for the next 10 plus years. And ultimately, I felt like I was stuck where I was, and I had reached a point in time where I wanted to move forward. And independent of you, I had decided that I needed to get rid of stuff, and not really knowing why, but I can now look back at it and go, I needed to get rid of stuff so that I could move forward with my life. And we had been friends for at least 5 years before then, but you were really digging into the meaning of space work at that point. You had a couple of iterations, before that. And so you were like, it was really kind of perfect timing, because you gave me the opportunity to actually understand what I instinctively had kind of figured out on some kind of a subconscious level. And I went, I just got to get rid of this crap because it's no longer serving me, and I need to go back out into the world. And what you gave me was the meaning behind the space and the stuff, and gave me a way to kind of let go of it in a meaningful and intentional way, so that it really was cut and was in my past, as opposed to being drugged forward, just like I had physically drug it with me for 30 and 40 years. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And you were just like perfect demonstration of how this works, because when we live our lives, and it's a lot in the Western world, we have access to anything we want, and we can get it either at a thrift store or at a high-end store. We just have access to way too much stuff. And this is I think, I don't have the current statistic, but storage units in America are just like over the top. And there's new ones being built around here right now, all over the place. It's pretty crazy. And so we have this relationship with stuff, and it has a meaning. In other words, it is a meaning about that if I have these things, it means that. If I have this thing and that I covet, it means this. It's like one of the hardest things to do with people is to help them get rid of something that they cherish. It might be a family piece or an heirloom. I have plenty of stories of that over my 20 years of doing this work. And the idea is that if you really value it, you will keep the memory of it. And it's the memory of it that you're trying to keep by keeping the thing. And so there are a lot of ways now with digital that you can keep memories. You can take pictures of things, you can frame things, you can do all kinds of things to not have the thing in your life. But this other piece is the collector in us, and it's the piece that kind of overgathers things and covets things. And sometimes that's related to a belief of lack, because if we have lack, then we're going to collect things because we have meaning and we have importance, and those things mean things to us, and they mean that we are okay and we have things and we can sell things. And again, I'm speaking generally because there are in my quiz, there are 6 styles that are very different. Some of them are more minimal. Some of them are more people who collect. Like, for instance, an earthy person will collect. And if you help an earthy person clutter clear, that you can't take away, help them it's not good for them to remove all of their collections because it's actually part of who they are. And if you look at their physiology, earthy people are generally shorter, they're generally heavier, they are more grounded people. They're people who love to invite you over and have you sit in a big cushy chair and have tea and talk, and they'll feed you. They will nurture you. So there are energies to this relationship with stuff. And sometimes it makes me crazy watching the home shows, some of the home shows, because there's no conversation about the person and their feelings and who they are and what's their life story. I have a whole piece in my program called The House History. What happened when you were a child? How did you grow up? A lot of the ways that you live in your space today, if you're living a little bit unconsciously, are habits that you gained from the way you grew up in your home, or their beliefs or experiences. So like if you didn't have your own room, now you have your own house and it's your own domain. So anyone else in a relationship moving in or living with you in that space you'll have challenges with that. I'm telling you, over 20 years, I have stories with clients that would make your jaw drop, because the relationship, what I see, like for instance, my fun one is I started to learn how to read nightstands. And when I would go into people's homes and I would look at the nightstands on either side, I could start to tell what the health of their relationship was like. And that is really interesting. And so I started to see, and this all came up, this whole psychology of space came to me in a very organic way. I learned feng shui. I learned all of the things that you would learn about how to manipulate space to change your life. And what I found was feng shui was adding these cures over the top of someone's life without really diving into their personal psychology. So as a life coach, I went the other direction and I started digging into the psychology. So in my appointments going into a home, it begins with a vision. It's a 2-hour visioning session. If it's a person, a couple, a family, can't do a family in 2 hours, but I can do a couple. And you find out what the people want. Okay, what do you want in your future? Tell me what that is. I don't want to see your space. Then the next 2 hours, I would have them walk me through their space from the driveway or the front door all the way through the home. And what you'll see is what's out of alignment with what they want in their vision. So now, why is that important? Because your house can literally hold you back from achieving what it is that you want, because your mindset is stuck in an unconscious state potentially, or stuck in an old belief or a limiting belief, and you're not free to go get what you want. And so the question becomes, how do you do that? By then manipulating your space to align to your vision to get your dream.
I want to make one comment and then two kind of things that I'll let you launch off of. You can launch off of either one of those. So the first one is that I remember when 9/11 occurred and our president, George W. Bush, there was a comment that he made, and I don't remember exactly, but I think it was as simple as people were like, "What can I do? To be of service to our country?" This is in the immediate aftermath, and he said, "Go out and buy stuff. Just keep going out and buying stuff," like as if keeping the economy going was the most important thing. And I can now look back and go, "Man, this was like completely missing the evolution of our awakening." Wasn't there in 2001, but that is a good example of like everything that was wrong. I should go back and find that exact quote for you. But I think it was like, just go buy stuff. Mm-hmm. We don't need to do that anymore in our lives. That's for sure. So that's just my commentary. You don't have to comment on that. But here's the two things you can pick up on. One is that I am heroic. I have taken your personality test, and then and so I am heroic. So you can comment on that, or you could comment on what did you like the I had already started the process of getting rid of stuff. I had already committed to getting rid of everything. When you came and saw my space, what went through your mind? And you don't have to hold back because we're already past that point in my life. So
yeah, okay. Yeah, well, so knowing you and knowing what you were trying to do, I was like, "Oh my God, this is huge. He doesn't even know how huge this is. He will go through this experience." So my best effort was to at least give you guideposts and to understand that when you downsize your life entirely and you make a life shift, if you really go after the stuff. And I mean physical, getting rid of things, garage sales, selling things, giving things away. That act of doing that actually starts the catalyst for your life opening for your next phase. So when I saw what you were trying to attempt to do by offlighting your house and I think 4 outbuildings, right? Four
Yes.
outbuildings, vehicles and tractors and all kinds of things. I was like, oh my God, okay, how am I going to help him do this? So it was okay. There's a process, Steve. And right now you care about everything. Everything matters to you. And you're trying to pick everything up or look at everything. And you're trying to move in that direction, but you're on the front end of that process. And in the front end, there's resistance. I don't value this. This has meaning. I want to keep this. I think I want to keep that. I'm not really sure about that. So I'll put it over here just for now. And we go through this like, it's a weird resistance actually. And it's a little bit painful because we haven't like hit the secret point I'm going to tell you about, which is the tripping point. But we are reviewing our life because we're picking up everything. It's exhausting. And so I told Steve, don't do this more than 3 hours at a whack. That's like your physical like limit. You'll know when you've hit another marker that you start feeling energized to do more. But you have to drink water and you have to take breaks. You have to go outside. You have to get your brain loosened up. You have to give yourself some nurturing food because you're going through, and we could talk forever on this on neuroplasticity, but you're rewiring your brain. You're going into your brain and your memories and you're saying, do I want this connection anymore? No, I don't. You start rewiring and unconnecting your neural network. It's like moving is like that too. Just moving. You don't even have to get rid of stuff. So as you're going through that process, what you went through, all of this stuff, I said to you, okay, now listen, sit you down. You've got to take breaks. You are going to slog through this first phase. And then there'll be a moment when you will say, I don't care anymore. I don't want it anymore. I'm not even going to look at it, or I might open the box and look at it, but I know if I haven't opened it in 10 years or 5 years or 3 years, it's probably not relevant to my life and I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let you tell the story of that point and then I'll come back.
Yeah, well, I didn't quite believe you. I remember you're telling me to drink water and I'm like, this is crazy. What are you talking about drinking water? And I didn't realize that there was all this energy caught up inside of my body and this actual physical change that had to occur. And the water was just a way of helping to cleanse it. So I came to understand that. It was slow going at the beginning because I was literally looking at everything. Now, I had started a full year before that point, and I had gotten rid of like some of the bigger things, but I still had an awful lot to go. In my mind, though, I was perceiving that I was like a lot further along than I was. And I really hadn't gotten to the point where I didn't care anymore. And that point didn't come for another, probably 2 months. And so like the point where we got really involved was about 4 months from when I finally concluded it. And it was really like kind of a nonstop slog through that entire thing. And the first 2 months, I'll say, were like me still being like analytical and looking at things and like, trying to decide, and then at the last 2 months, it was like really, like kind of just massive getting rid of it. And I remember one day, like there was it's just one silly story. There was a box of hats, baseball caps that I had. And you said, sit down and I'm going to pull out each hat and you say, keep it or go. And I end up keeping 4 hats and they're still here in my room. And they're not like beautiful hats and they're beat up but they had like kind of the meaning, but all the other ones went and they were all gone. And it happened within like 10 minutes. But I needed that help. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah. Well, that statement you just said, which is I wasn't there yet. And it's a real point at which you experience it, and then it's there. And then, okay, now, and then you kind of look at everything a little bit differently, and then you start rolling, because you had a lot of stuff to get rid of in your last 2 weeks, and you had, everything out in the yard, and you had stuff in the house, and you had, that's the hardest part. That's the part where I was worried about you the most, because it's the part where you just want to like get in your car and drive away.
In fact, there was a couple times when I said, you know what, I don't even want to finish this. I just want to go right now. And you were like, no, you have to, you'll be much happier if you clean it up in a intentional and purposeful way with integrity, so that you make a clean break from it, so that you don't have like those energy strands like, oh, I should have like taken that last week and done that a little bit better, whatever it was. And so anyway, you were critically helpful for the job that I was doing. I don't know how I would have done it, without your help, or it wouldn't have ended up as nicely as it ended up had you not been there. So I'm grateful, eternally grateful.
Yeah, you're welcome. One of the things that was key, and for everyone at that point, is finishing up. If you're leaving something behind, and you've heard me say this quote a million times from William Bridges, there must be an ending in order for there to be a new beginning. And in the middle, there's this I don't know zone, which you went on your journey driving across the country and, almost got COVID in the middle of that experience. So you could kind of take a year off and really contemplate your life, which is really valuable. But that moment that you have tied everything up and you're complete is really powerful, because if you leave undone relationship issues, undone clutter, you leave things that you just drove away from or didn't care about, but you did really care about them behind, then you're taking those energy threads as you're traveling across the country. And so you want to tie up everything with a bow and dust your hands off and be able to move away, even though that's really, it's really a huge, very tiring, exhausting thing. But you did something that not everyone in the world will do, which is you offloaded like 98% of your belongings. I mean, what you had left was in your back of your pickup and your little tiny U-Haul trailer, and that was it. And that was like, I don't know, percentage-wise, what would you say percentage-wise?
Oh gosh, less than 1%. It was very minuscule. And what's funny is that probably 60 to 70% of that is not really very important. It's just sitting there unused. It's like only like a very tiny piece that I actually took, but it was like these last little pieces were hard to get rid of, right? You kind of get small. You went from here to here to here to here to here to here. And then I ended up with this much. And it turns out that really I only needed that much, so it's kind of funny that way, but.
Right. Well, I think we all go through that. I just cleared my closet this weekend, and I was up there last night. Some new clothes came, and I was up there last night, and I'm like, I have to go through here again, because I wasn't ruthless enough, because I look in my closet and I don't have nothing to wear. What is that? What's going on there? Right. So when you go through it, and what I'm going through is identifying myself right now. I'm going, I didn't think that I would be going through this at this stage, but I am. Like, what do I want to wear? How do I want to appear in the world? What matters to me now? I'm over 60, so that it kind of turned a clock for me, and it said, this is a little different. So now what does that look like? Different shoes, no more high heels, a lot of flat shoes, comfort, there's a lot of things that happen as we progress through life. I loved your monologue this morning about timelines, because, sometimes that space-place shift is real, and you can use your space to make those shifts. And you did that, and I went through what you went through as well, getting rid of most of my things, and then traveling the world for a year with a backpack, learning that my backpack was my home, and that how I organized my home, which was on my back, and walked about the planet for a year, was as important as how I treat my space today. I mean, it's hilarious. And I'm going to tell you real quickly, this little story. So that I just realized. So when I was traveling the world, they say, keep your backpack around 30, 35 pounds. That's really good. I'm like, I'm a girl. How are we going to do that? Right? I have things that I want to have with me for comfort items and things. And so my backpack always seemed to hover around 45 pounds, which is getting up there because it's like, yeah, up there.
Yeah.
A third of my body weight. And so, but one of the things that mirrors my life that I care about are books. And so at one point I think I was like, I don't know, I would stop in a big city and I would go to a bookstore and I would get books that I haven't read because I had plenty of time to read when I was traveling. And at one point I had the bottom half of my backpack full of books. And maybe I was over 50 pounds. I don't know. My backpack, I had to lay down on a surface and get my backpack on to get it. My house was heavy, right? And now today, and I got rid of my books about 5 years ago, almost all of them. And now today I was just organizing this weekend. I have too many books. It's like, so what is, books are a big topic. What is having too many books about? Well, there's a part of me that is super curious about, I want to read everything, but do I have time to read those books? No. I was listening to Blinkist, which is this book summary, or Mentor Box, any of those that help you read the summaries and you don't have to buy the books or read the whole entire book. But I love books, right? So getting rid of books is a hard thing for me. So when I go to my bookcase, which is full of books, I have to go, what is it that you think you're missing? Or what are you really curious about that you don't have time for? And I have to say, it's okay. If you want that information, it's on the internet. You can find articles, you can find book summaries, you can actually go digital and cut down on this, But that's how it works. That's the mirror. So my book theme followed me even when my house was a backpack.
Yeah, that seems crazy now that you look back on it and go, why were you carrying all these books? And, iPads weren't invented, or Kindles weren't invented, but that would have been a lot simpler. But even then, you wouldn't have had time to read all of those books that we have on our Kindle. So, we're going to run out of time. So I want to give you plenty of time to talk about what you're doing today, because it was interesting and it was super helpful for me, but you've already evolved since then when you helped me with it. What is the Meaning of Space all about today? And tell us about your Clean Tech Challenge, which I've taken an earlier version of. So tell us what you're doing today and how people can, benefit from working with you.
Yeah, well, so the Clean Tech Challenge happened, actually, I forgot to tell you this, last week. And this week we're doing the Clean Office Challenge. And actually the way I'm doing my challenges, they used to be very, very online and very robust. And so now we're doing them as courses. So you can go on themeaningofspace.com. And this is interesting because I have been dealing with a broken wrist, so I'm a little behind on my things. Well, you can go to, let me just give you this link. You can go to meaningofspace.com/clean office, just all one word, Clean Office. And that will give you the page to sign up for the Clean Office Challenge. And you can dive in, and the coursework will go in your My Library in the back end of my online course software. So you can always access that. And anyway, the whole idea behind Meaning of Space is I have a 4-month transformation program that we have a group in right now. My next one will launch in September. And there's that, and that is a whole full top to bottom transformation where you go from your house history and a bunch of assessments, your style, and your vision, and then you go into LifeSpace transformation, and we go through decluttering, creating living systems that are what I call organizing, but they're actually how you live in your house. And then personal symbology, how do you turn your home into a living vision map? So that's a 4-month program. We'll be offering that soon again, but you can learn about that on my website. And then also there are other challenges and things, and there's a free space personality quiz. If you go there, you can find out what your space personality is, and it's a really fun quiz. So meaningofspace.com, just go there and explore around. We're having a little slow updating, but because of my wrist and me having the bandwidth to be able to get everything working. But we're getting there. I don't have a cast on anymore.
Your personality quiz, I mentioned it again. I've tested heroic. Since we've used me as a little bit of an example, just tell people if someone is a heroic, what does that mean about their space?
Mm-hmm. Right. So a heroic is actually the wood element. And heroic people are very strong. They're very determined. They're usually very traditional. Their homes are very, you won't see a wood person changing out their furniture all the time. An artsy person would do that, but a heroic person is someone who's determined. They have dreams, they get what they want, but they value family and tradition, and they value gatherings. So one of the things I think for heroics that may have been hard is that we couldn't gather. And so when it was time, and I saw that you did this with your family, when it was time to regather with your family, it really had a lot of deep meaning. And so heroic people are wood. You're solid, you're determined, you're sturdy, you can count on you. Like I will know Steve my whole entire life. We've known each other for probably close to 10 years now. And you know, you're a trustworthy person. In other words, you're not going to be like an artsy person that's like flying off to Thailand and going here and going there like me. So I'm a flighty person.
So what would you say to, as I, kind of try to move into this next phase where I'm going to be living and working from the road? Obviously, I'll need to keep things at a minimum, but I want to also have, I want to have a studio in the RV so that I can do broadcasting from it, invite people in, have a comfortable place, also be able to do remote broadcasts, go into their place and, show who they are that way. But, I'll be my backpack will be a little bigger than the 35 to 40 pounds you carried, but it'll still be kind of like a portable thing. So does that work for a heroic space personality?
Yeah, I think that's a really great challenge. And probably what will happen is you'll have a very traditional vehicle. First of all, your vehicle choice of wherever your sponsor is going to be to get you that vehicle, that'll be fun to see. And then you'll set things up inside that are like I did with the backpack, which my first aid kit went here and my shampoo went there. And you find that everything has to have its place, because when it does, you can count on it. And it's not a distraction because you're going to be busy with all of your other things, interviews and production and things like that. So your moving vehicle will have just the right amount of stuff. You can always remember this. You can always in our country get whatever you need anytime. Stop at Walmart or whatever, So we don't need as much as we think, but we need the basic stuff. You might want to approach it as if it were a backpack. If you were just carrying this amount of stuff aside from your business stuff, what is it that you really want and need? How many clothes? What kind of toiletries? What kind of food items? I had a little electric. It was amazing. I found it, a little coffee filter and a little electric thing that you could put in and make hot water. So I could always have my coffee. And so when I would get coffee, I would load myself up and I had my little coffee kit. And that had meaning to me. And I was always really happy that I could have my coffee. So you'll have things like that too.
Yeah, well, this is, let's not give the impression that people have to do something radical like I did. I'm probably an extreme case. What's the typical person doing in their life to kind of make some small changes that can make a big difference? And how do you help those folks?
Yeah, I say you can make changes really simply. Like I have a thing about just go into your silverware drawer in your kitchen and clear out the silverware drawer and only keep the silverware in there. If it's mismatched, keep what you really love and donate the rest. There are plenty of people who need silverware out there in the world. But just to be conscious with something small like that, or a place that you sit, maybe you have a chair in your living room that you sit all the time and it tends to get things cluttered around it. Clear that space out and make it work for you. Like, what's there? Maybe you are a crocheter, or you're an artist, or you like to read. So does everything work for you? Don't compromise on those places in your house that are really special, places that you spend a lot of time. Now we're going, it's spring, so we're going outside and going into the garden and things like that. And we can kind of leave the house behind for a little while. But when you come back in and you're sitting there in the evening after dinner, what is it that you want to see and experience, to have rest and nurturing and to love yourself? Because really, space love is very real, and it will love you back if you love it.
Our mutual friend Bettina says that I'm forever grateful to you, Tamara, for helping me to turn a big dream real. You've helped me 20 years literally achieve dream after dream. Your work has been invaluable, and she says she loves you. So, and yes, both Bettina and I participated in your year-long program, One Big Thing. I think you've replaced that with that 4-month program that you mentioned, but basically that's a program for people who want to, do something big in their life, and yet do it we know it can't take like a week. You can't do it. It's bigger. It's too big to do that. But why did you switch it from 1 year down to like a 4-month time frame?
Because we are funny creatures. We don't stick with things. We aren't consistent people. Most people will not stick with things for a full year. Some people will, and that's perfect perseverance. But I found that my question was, what time frame will it take to cause transformation? And right now I'm testing 4 months. I may be able to get it down more, but I'm telling you, the people in the program are a third of the way in, and there has been massive change in their lives already. And they haven't even started really moving stuff yet. So
I remember when I did the 12-month One Big Thing program, it was very easy for me to take the first quarter and like make a plan for what I was going to do. But like the second quarter, you kind of got a little bit fuzzier on what you would do then. And then the third and the fourth quarter were just wild guesses, really. So I think the advantage of that shorter time frame is that you can just, you can still accomplish something big, but you have it in a manageable time frame, where you can envision it out, and then do something and take action on it. And then set a new plan at the end of that 4 months.
Yeah, I in my work, I don't start anything. You can start with goals, but I start with vision, because what is it that you want? You're more motivated to move towards what you want and away from what you don't want if you know where you're going. So vision's critical.
Tamara, thank you for coming and joining us this morning. I sure appreciate it. This was fun. We were overdue to have this, conversation publicly. So I'm really grateful. And I once again want to just say thank you, because I would not have been able to clean up my life in the way that I did. And I remember being taught about the idea of a blank slate in 2009, and like I theoretically could understand what a blank slate was, or a blank white piece of paper, and you could put whatever you want on it. And it wasn't until just in the last few months that I actually really kind of felt like I had gotten there. So here it was, like a full year after leaving and having cleaned all that up, because there was still energy that was connected. And I was, probably at the end of last year, I was as close to being a blank slate as I had ever been in, my, previous 40 or 50 or 60 years. And you helped go through that massive transformation that I went through, and you were the coach and you were the guide for it. And it would have ended up differently if I had just done it by myself without the help. So, and the help of your community, the Meaning of Space. There were many people who cheered me on, and I'm grateful for all of them.
Thank you so much. And, thank you for letting me into your life to help, because it's pretty powerful when you do it. And I'm so honored.
Well, yeah. My guess is we both still have more work to do along this thing, and that we'll continue along the journey together, and you'll be back and you'll tell us what you're doing, and I'll keep you informed what I'm doing. So you can have the last word. Oh,
everyone, just enjoy your space and realize that it's more powerful than you think. So pick something small, like a silverware drawer, and begin.
There you go. All righty. Well, thank you, Tamara. We'll see you again.
All right. Bye. Bye for now.
Wow, that was fun. Tamara, we met in 2014, and I'll just tell this story. I'm in a I'm in a conference room, a little kind of a seminar. A speaker is there doing her thing, and somebody stands up and asks a question. And I do this like almost break my neck, turning around to see who is this person asking that question. And it was Tamra Fleming. And I went, I have to go meet this woman and find out who she is. I didn't know she lived in our little town of Hamilton, Montana. So that's how Tamara and I met, and we became friends. And here we are all these years later, still doing work together, doing great things. So, all righty. Well, that's today's show. We'll go ahead and call it good. We'll wrap it up. Let me tell you what's happening tomorrow. Gwen Peterson joins us, Spiritual Communities Network. She is the founder of Spiritual Communities Network, and she'll tell us about how the spiritual entrepreneurs that are in her group and the people that those people are working for have all created a community. And then Victoria Reynolds comes back to the show on Friday, and she is going to give her own personal declaration of independence. And that really is it's a manifesto about where she believes the world is and how she chooses to live in the world that we live in today, because there's a lot of stuff happening and a lot of energy is moving fast. And she's has a formula or her declaration on how to live free in that world. So that's it. So have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow with Gwen Peterson. All righty. Have a great day, everybody.